plenty of coffee. You might need it. My name's Andy Duncan. I'm the IT interface manager at Spitfire. I've been here a while. I joined in 2015. My life before that was actually, I was the MD of a London-based MSP who is conveniently a partner with Spitfire. So I've kind of been in your seat as well. Hopefully I'm more interesting than what I had to listen to back then. Can't guarantee it. Pete, you're welcome. I'm going to talk about our core network. You've already heard it mentioned today. At Spitfire, we like to talk about our core network. We're pretty proud of it, really. And it is one of the things, or we think it's probably the main thing, that differentiates Spitfire and our products and services from those of our competitors. But what do we mean by our core network? So what I want to do is just drill down on what it is, what it does for you, how it enables our products and services. So our core network lies at the heart of all the network connections we build. Almost every service we provide connects directly to or traverses our core network in some way. Whether that's an internet circuit, a voice over IP service, or a connection to a public cloud platform. So what does it look like? Let that catch up. Okay, so our core network's built across 4 data centers around London. They've all got strange names like North, South, East, and West, but fundamentally 3 data centers, public data centers, apart from one, which is our own head office. They're connected via fiber in what we call the resilient ring. And what that design means is if any of the links are to fail, traffic simply reroutes around it. What that means is that we can maintain sufficient uptime and avoid outages. With resilience in mind, which is clearly at the heart of the design, we wanted to also avoid any vendor issues. So 50% of the core is built on Juniper and 50% on Cisco. I won't tell you which nodes are which, that's a bit of a secret. But if you get a software issue or a patch that goes wrong, obviously we'll avoid that. Now, as our customer base and their demands increase, we need to obviously keep up with the scale or keep ahead of that. So to do that, what we've done this year is upgrade the entirety of our core network components. And that is all of the inter-data center links and all of the core routers and switches to 100 gigabit per second capable. So what does it do? Every broadband and Ethernet circuit we provide, with the exception of point-to-point circuits, connects a customer site to our core network. And then we'll route it onto other services such as the internet. Now, as you probably know, we don't dig up roads. We don't lay fiber. So what we need is wholesale access to provide those services for us. They lay the fiber, connecting those customer sites, delivering that traffic back to one or more of our core network nodes. And they interconnect their networks into our network at those nodes. So what we've actually got is a customer circuit, wholesale access provision, whether that's fiber or copper and fiber, into one of the interconnects connected to our networks. We've now connected the customer to our core. We refer to those interconnects, to those access circuits as wholesale access. When it comes to wholesale access particularly, but connectivity in general, our mission is to provide the most appropriate connectivity to every location at a competitive price. And the combination of the way we've built our core network, the services provided by our wholesale access providers, and the way, the depth that we interconnect with them helps us to achieve that goal. Now, the majority of that, historically anyway, was provided by BT Wholesale and the Openreach network. And that provides us with access connectivity for most circumstances. And that's achieved through the national availability of dedicated fibre Ethernet, FTTC broadband, FTTC Ethernet, and the ever-growing FTTP footprint. Our elite partner status is testament to the scale and importance of our relationship with BT Wholesale. We were actually the first elite partner. BT Wholesale provides us with broadband and Ethernet access circuits all the way up to 10 gigabits per second. And as our BT Wholesale base estate is so significant, we actually have interconnects at all 4 of our data centers, which gives us considerable capacity and diversity and enables not just our large customer base, but also facilitates a range of resilient, diverse access solutions. Okay. So it's no surprise that BT Wholesale was our first wholesale access provider to commission 100 gigabits per second interconnect into our network. So what about when OpenReach FTTP isn't available, but FTTP is the most suitable product? Network diversity is needed, or simply speed of deployment is important, such as an alternative access provider already has network presence at the customer site. These are the scenarios where we also offer access connectivity from 7 other wholesale access providers. And as demand continues, we continue to improve our wholesale access provision in line with our mission. This year we've added Vodafone as a new dedicated fibre Ethernet provider, and we've added CityFibre FTTP broadband access. We've also increased our number of interconnects to 3 for each of TalkTalk and Colt. If you can count, try and find the 3rd Colt one. There's 2 in one data centre. To continue our mission, we will continue to add new providers and additional and larger interconnects ahead of customer demands. Basically, we want to be the connectivity provider who always says yes to connecting your customer to the right service quickly and cost effectively. We know the hassle that you have in shopping around to save a pound or two. We just want to avoid that scenario. All of this network capability is built to underpin the range of services we provide, not just internet connectivity. As was said earlier, network's also been built to natively support IP voice, and we use it to create private wide area networks using MPLS technology. There's also a number of on-net services that I'm going to come on to. So, we provided an access circuit. We've connected the customer to our core network. Most commonly after that, they want to connect to the internet. So we do that through our connections into the London Internet Exchange, or links, and peering relationships with the top 3 Tier 1 ISPs, namely Lumen, Cogent, and Telia Sonera, as they're called this week. They'll probably change next week. As with our circuits, we've distributed our internet-facing connections around our core, again with a focus on resilience. Now, obviously, as access circuit bandwidths increase, internet usage increases, and we need to stay ahead of that demand. So our internet-facing connections are all in the process of also being upgraded to 100 gigabits per second. And as I mentioned, 10 gig access bearers are now available and becoming more frequently requested. So while we continue to invest in our network capacity and our internet breakout, the last missing piece of that is just to make sure that we can also provide on-premise customer equipment. So we've recently added another Juniper router to our managed device range, and the SRX 380 is fully 10 gig circuit capable, i.e. 20 gig throughput capable. Okay. It doesn't come in a 3 figures price point, I'm afraid. Okay, let's talk about the nasty bits. We're connecting the customers to the internet, so we've got to think about security. And we all know who in this room the customer's going to look to for solving that problem. According to a survey commissioned by the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology in April this year, I'm glad I wrote that down, 32% of businesses recall a data breach or attack in the previous 12 months. That number rises to 59% for mid-sized businesses, or 69% for large. And when it comes to cybercrime, 11% of businesses experience a cybercrime or attack in that same 12-month period, with an average cost of just over £15,000 per business. Okay? It's adding up. So the question is how can Spitfire help you to help your customers? Introducing Spitfire Firewall as a Service, or FWAS. What this provides you with is on-net service deployed within the Spitfire core network between your Ethernet connection, so your customer's site connection, or MPLS network and the public internet. FWAS is going to provide you with feature-rich enterprise-grade security without the need for any on-premise security hardware. Management overheads and costs are dramatically reduced because you've got a single online point of management to deploy a company-wide security framework, especially beneficial when you've got multiple sites. So one managed portal, multiple sites. So what is FWaaS? Firstly, it's built on a resilient Fortinet platform, so that's Fortinet FortiGate firewalls. I am going to get tongue twisted on these 40-somethings in a minute. And they run the Fortinet's unified threat management suite. So very extensive feature set. What you're going to get within that is network security, obviously, antivirus, anti-spam, web content filtering, application filtering, IPsec and SS VPNs, the list goes on. FWaaS is obviously as a service model. It's all in one. There's no licenses for you to pay, no per user fees, you've got no hardware to maintain or software to patch. Simple monthly charge based on the bandwidth that you require. Most importantly, it's managed by you. You are best placed to understand your customer's security requirements. We're not. Okay? We'll set it up and get you running with it. All you need to do is continue the day-to-day management. You will have complete management control. Obviously, we're there for when you need it. We'll do all the boring stuff, the patches, the firmware upgrades, but the day-to-day policy management is entirely up to you. So why Fortinet? So the FortiGate platform offers a very effective multi-tenant experience. So for us, deploying this as a service, that was ideal for us. We have one system, albeit a resilient platform, that we can slice up virtually for you. Okay. Fully functional within that feature set. I knew I was going to struggle with that one. Okay. There was no way that we could do an as-a-service model without that, and that's in fact why we haven't done this sooner. I say sooner. We've been running this for a few years now. Okay. As for Fortinet, if you're not aware of them, Fortinet's FortiGate firewalls have long been recognized as market leading. But to give you an idea, Cyber Ratings last year gave them a fairly unique AAA rating, a score of 99.88%. That's not bad. Okay? I'm yet to find out what the little 1% was wrong with them. Also, if you look at Gartner, Gartner's Magic Quadrant puts them as a leader for network firewalls, and if any of you can see very closely there, they do keep some pretty good company with some very expensive alternatives. Okay. And going back to Cyber Ratings, they also look at the bang for the buck. And they've estimated that you get effectively the cost of protecting a megabit of traffic is less than $10. No market leader comes close. Okay. All the other ones up there are a little bit niche. All the market leaders, good old Cisco, getting quite expensive. Okay. So what does this all mean to you? Basically, you get a very feature-rich firewall as a service, very high functionality, that you have complete control over at a very effective price point. Okay, so we think it's a good product based on that. Okay. So let me show you through some few bits of it. What do you actually get? Let's start with real-time access to your activity. Okay. I'll tell you now, I will actually be showing this out in the demo suite, so if any of you are less optically available than me, in other words, you don't have to worry looking at the detail. Okay. Real-time access to firewall activity, so you can see who's connected, for example, what websites they're browsing, how much bandwidth you're using, any risks, any blocked traffic. That's just for starters. Not just visibility, you're in control. So if you can see that, very intuitive web portal. It's all drop-downs and clicks. You're not putting any command line stuff in there. In fact, we don't let you get to the command line. Okay. You do, however, have enough control to break it. So we even allow you to have multiple profiles. So if you're confident, you can get full admin access. Less confident, or you want to sub off some of that responsibility to a junior member of staff, we can break off so you can get, for example, just website overrides. Or if you really don't want to touch it, go read-only and just report to us if you've got something that needs changing. It's fairly straightforward to use, but we'll set it up for you. You set up your rules, lovely spreadsheets set up and to fill in, and we'll set up the firewall accordingly. And thereafter, it's over to you, but we are available. Okay. In terms of functionality, it's very powerful, but the level of functionality is very granular. Okay? So it makes it easy to manage and very, very flexible. To give you an idea about level of granularity, if you want to control WhatsApp as a corporate application, for example, you might want to allow it on your corporate network. But you might not want to allow the file transfer or the web app. That's fine. You can change that. Okay. Now, FWAS is policy-driven. You can create multiple policies for each function, and you can assign those policies for particular scenarios, whether that's a IP range, a user group, or even a whole subnet. Okay. What this allows you to do is clearly see what your users are doing or trying to do and failing. So, for example, here, if you can just about see on the top right-hand side, there are people who are failing to stream Spotfy because we don't allow it on the corporate network. We may, however, allow it on a guest Wi-Fi. So that level of granularity is available for you. And because it's policy-based and you can set up multiple policies, you can use these in different circumstances for devices, users, or different network scenarios. Give you an example of that. We do a lot of work with schools, so it's deployed well in schools. And probably the reason why it's good in schools is there's a lot of firewalls out there that have a per-user license base. There's a lot of kids in schools. Okay, it gets quite pricey. We just charge for the bandwidth. Okay. Not only that, web content filtering is quite key. But what you can get is this granular level of policy base. So, for example, a different policy for staff, sixth form students, lower grade students, juniors, etc., guest Wi-Fi. All of those policies, all following the same theme, but with different levels of control. Okay. Which kind of brings me nicely onto reporting. Within FWAS, you do get visibility of what's going on, and that's based on the last 7 days of reporting, or 7 days of logs. So really pretty much what's happening or what's just happened. But we also provide you with FortiAnalyzer, which is Fortinet's reporting engine. And that keeps logs for up to a year. So you've got a really good idea of trends and changes. Okay. Loads of custom reports. I mean, the list is pages and pages. Sorry, standard reports, but fully customizable, generatable, lots of nice graphics. They look like professional documents, even if you've created them yourself. And they do go down some really niche levels. So the example on the screen there, following on from our schools example, one of the canned reports that comes out is a cyberbullying indicators report. So you can actually see and report on it offensive terms that people have used in social media, chat or Gmail. Okay? So we're talking about some very niche stuff that's available. We're not just talking about what's my average bandwidth over the last week and how many VPN terminations have I got. Huge amount of information there. Okay, so numerous features in FWAS. I haven't got time to run through them all now. Hopefully I've given you a flavour of how powerful it is and a small indication of how easy it is to use. As I say, it's out on the demo suites outside, so come and have a look if you need more information. Okay. Where do I go on to? Okay, right. So FWAS came around in 2019. As I say, we couldn't do it much earlier because there really wasn't a suite of products that was stable enough to do it. We had a look on Cisco and it just wasn't going to do it for us. Since then, it's gone from strength to strength. It's now surpassed our hosted or on-premise firewalls as the de facto standard for MPLS customers and continues to grow for dedicated fiber Ethernet single circuit customers as well. Fortinet are continually enhancing the feature set. The latest update I found out last week has now added video content filtering, for example. So if you want to allow YouTube on your network but restrict which channels can be seen, you can do that on a channel-by-channel basis. And at the same time, we continue to evolve the service we provide under FWAS. One of the latest features we've added is the support for multi-factor authentication. And that uses 40 tokens. Effectively, you get a user license for each user that might want to use it. So multi-factor authentication, typically two scenarios, either for access to the portal itself, so you have to have authenticated access for your administrators, alternatively for SSL VPNs. Okay. In terms of how we provide that, it's a per user license, and that's a small monthly fee for each user. So you only need to provide that for people who need it. Fortinet also provide a large range of wireless access points. Those can all be centrally managed through the same management portal. Okay? You guys are out there in your customer sites. If you want to deploy these as Wi-Fi solutions, just plug it all in. Okay? Makes it nice and easy for you. We do also understand that in certain scenarios, on-premise hardware is still preferred or required. For example, if you've got a multi-site customer, one of those sites is a serviced office, using a third-party connection, put a dedicated firewall on there. And occasionally, the customer just wants the firewall fully managed by someone else, and we can provide that same service level and service management wrapped into a dedicated appliance. Now, when we launched Firewall as a Service, there's a phrase you all like, our typical customer was utilizing less than 50 meg or 50 megabits per second through the firewall. It's now closer to 200, I wish, 200. Okay? So a significant increase. We recognise that our pricing model didn't quite scale well. So we've actually reviewed our pricing model, and it's much more favourable for those higher bandwidths now. The prices have actually gone down on the higher bandwidths. Now, as I mentioned earlier, FWaaS is designed to be managed by the customer or yourself. And particularly for any of you who are not familiar with the FortiGate platform, it will be a quick learning curve. But what we want to do is also make sure that you get some training. So we will offer free partner training to anyone who wants to skill up on the platform. Okay. So just to quickly summarise, what you're going to get from FWaaS is a platform that you manage. You retain the customer contact, you look after it, but we're taking the headaches away. Taking those big CapEx expenditure away, and we're taking those hardware issues, on-site requirements, etc. Okay. So remove those headaches for you. Okay. So where have we got to? Connected you to our network, onto the internet, provided you with some security on the way. But where are your applications nowadays? Where are those servers? Are they in a data center? In the public cloud? We'll see. So, very easy and traditional, providing cross-connects into data centers or point-to-point circuits. Not a problem there. But how do we give you that quality and that level of connectivity when you're using a public cloud platform? I really need to change my words when I'm trying to speak. Okay. Let's look at the next piece of the jigsaw. So in 2018, we launched Cloud Connect. And what this does is allow customers to directly and privately connect their premises or MPLS networks into Azure or AWS using ExpressRoute and Direct Connect respectively. Okay. What this gives you is a low latency virtual circuit with an assured throughput, okay? Something that you just can't get by traversing the internet. The connection effectively adds the cloud virtual network to the customer's private, now wide area network, using private IP addressing, simple routing, and no VPNs. Extremely easy to configure. The actual setup takes less than an hour. There's a bit of planning and testing in there, but it's literally point and click. And most of that work is actually done getting the AWS or Azure network ready. Okay. So when would you use this? Here's just a few examples. Where you've got latency or bandwidth-sensitive applications, let's look at remote desktop. What you get from Cloud Connect would be a consistent end-user experience because you've got that network performance. If you've got high bandwidth applications such as data backup, replication, Cloud Connect will actually allow the data to traverse its network path privately without clogging up your internet breakout or your firewall. And obviously, because you're reducing that latency, removing the VPN overhead, not clogging up your firewall, the actual transfer time can be significantly reduced. We also need to be concerned about security, as we've mentioned earlier. What better way than to connect to your cloud platform without an internet leg. It's all private, so removing that public network. Now, if you're not familiar with Cloud Connect, probably all sounds a bit enterprisey and expensive, but in actual fact, can't get to my notes, you're going to get the benefits of the better connectivity. It's natively more secure, simple to deploy, no specialist hardware, etc., etc. All of that is typically at a lower cost than deploying using firewalls, VPNs, and internet connections. Okay? If you don't believe me, and I'm sure there's some illustrations of true cost breakdowns are going to be on the big screens outside after. Now, Cloud Connect, in order to connect, we actually utilize Equinix as a partner. So Equinix, if you don't know them, run a number of data centers, a few around London, quite big ones. And they run a platform that they call ECX, which is Equinix Cloud Exchange, or ECX Fabric, it's sometimes known as. And what this is really an interconnectivity platform to bring together service providers, such as ourselves, data center tenants, and cloud service providers, and allow them to interconnect to each other. Now, ECX's capability is continuously growing, and as it does, that gives us reach to more and more suppliers that also use the fabric. Historically, as I say, this was just Amazon and Microsoft Azure, but we've got some big names on there. So Google Cloud, IBM Software, Oracle Cloud, Salesforce, Wasabi, and literally hundreds more. Most of our Cloud Connect customers are using these platforms, historically mainly Azure and AWS, where they have deployed server applications and they want to access them from on-premise services. Okay. But as you can see from the list of vendors up there, there's a growing trend for SaaS providers to actually enable their services or expose them to these private connections, such as Salesforce or Wasabi. For those who don't know, Wasabi is a backup service. And then the third scenario is where we're finding software providers who are deploying into the likes of AWS or Azure. One example we've been working on recently is with Kodak Print Services. And Kodak Print Services effectively do managed print services, software and as a service, which was traditionally provided on premise. And when I'm talking managed print, we're talking about magazines, brochures, high resolution, terabyte file sizes, and they do need the low latency and the high data transfer requirements. So they're now exposing their services to using the likes of AWS Direct Connect and Azure Express Route. We're on the other end of that. So we can hook our customers, your customers, directly to these services privately. Okay. So if you're thinking about moving your customer applications to the cloud, or they're already there and you need a bit of performance, or they're looking at SaaS and that SaaS vendor supports this delivery model, have a look at Cloud Connect, speak to your account manager, because we are finding more and more scenarios where it is beneficial. Okay. So hopefully I've managed to give you a nice catch up on our core network to date, completed the first two bits of our random jigsaw that you see on all our promotion material, and whetted your appetite for the rest of the story. I'm now going to hand over to Pete, who you already met earlier. Thank you for your time.